You are listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud, conversations about trauma and healing from two women who are doing the work.
Hi, everyone. It's Processing Trauma Out Loud with Kandace and Sher. And today I have the privilege of introducing the episode because I am going to be interviewing Kandace about a creative project that she is bringing into the world. And we are so excited about this. This has been in process for many months, and I've had the privilege of just walking with you, Kandace, from the very beginning. And I'm just so excited about seeing something coming into being that you created from nothing. That's very exciting. And so today we're going to talk about the memoir that you have been working on and are publishing, and we'll have it available for our listeners as well as everyone in the whole world. Kandace.
I love your vision there, Sher.
Yeah, I know. It's very exciting. Well, tell us a little bit about just your book and what inspired you to write your memoir. Just give us a little introduction here.
Yeah, I feel like what comes up for me when you ask what inspired me, I think I've been inspired to write this when I was a little girl, not knowing what the story was going to be. I remember when I was about 7 years old, we went on a family vacation and I bought one of those it was a Mickey Minnie Mouse diary that had the lock. And I felt like such a big kid, and like the idea that I could write my thoughts down, but then I could lock them up and nobody could read them. But my dad wrote in that, and I don't remember his exact words, but I do believe it planted a seed in me to grow up to be a compassionate young woman that could write and share her thoughts with the world. Something like that I know hit me as a little girl, like in my heart in a good way. Honestly, I have written quite a bit over the years, but this is the only thing that's going to hit the light of day.
So far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just the inspiration came from, I've had seasons that I've written more, but I feel like I had been pretty shut down in my writing for several years. But then when I started again, it just opened up and started to flow.
Yeah. And it has been such a flow. So tell us a little bit about, because this memoir is really focusing in on one period of time in your life. It's not really a whole life memoir, but rather a focus on a particular aspect of your journey. And so tell us a little bit about how you landed here.
Well, I think when I entered into story work, and the longer that other people started hearing my story, seeing my little girl, my teenage girl, a lot of work with my story work coach, I realized not only did my teenage girl, so I do start a little bit earlier, share a little bit before that, but really getting into like junior high, she began feeling so misunderstood and judged. But what I realized as I was writing those things and thinking about my story work and how I could see her now, I was the one that was still judging her and misunderstanding her. I was already starting to see her, but man, when I wrote this out, there were just times I would have to wow, I really love this girl. And she had a lot of pain and anger.
Yes, she did. I'm wondering, do you want to tell us the title of your book? Or are you waiting on that?
Yeah, so it's a memoir, but yeah, I'll wait on the title until it comes out.
Okay.
I can tell you this. You and I both talk about a modality that we use called internal family systems, when we can really look at that there is our true selves, our highest self, our essential self. And we also have parts of us, like part of me feels happy that I get to do something, with my friends, but another part of me doesn't really want to go. So that's just to break it down simply. But I was able to see that throughout my teenage years, I had a very identifiable part that looked a very certain way. So my memoir is going to be about how that part developed, how that looked for me through high school, and really it was the main way that I coped, protected that
Yeah.
little girl who had so much pain.
And it's interesting as we're talking about her right now, you are referring to her in the third person, but she is you.
Yeah.
She is a part of you, and yet you're distinctively referring to her in the third person. And I'm curious about that. Do you want to say any more about that?
Well, I think I'm just doing that more for maybe the listener's sake. I feel very much that she is me now. I couldn't for a very long time. Very hard to see her. It's interesting because when I think of my littlest part, I haven't had a lot of work to do around seeing her compassionately, but as she grew older, she definitely became the problem. And she was the one who I needed to stuff down, bury, put her under lock and key, and tell her to never show up again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Till I
Yeah.
met you. No.
Yeah, because we love her so much.
Hmm.
And a memoir is it's a story of stories, and many of your stories are very vulnerable, where you are just really real and very honest about what this journey was like for you. And I'm just curious, what has it been like for you to put this in writing in a way that you're going to offer really to the world? How has that process been for you to do this?
The one word answer that comes up to me is very therapeutic. Personally,
Yeah.
there's something about being able to share those stories from eighth grade until I graduated and even went into my first year of college. So I took it up to about, 20 years old, which I had gotten married in there. And so there was something about seeing the trajectory of that time period and having these eyes to see her like, oh, of course. Yeah, of course you struggled in this way. Or of course there were times you felt so angry that you got into a few fights, baby girl.
Yeah, yeah. She was feisty. She is feisty. She's still feisty. I see that. I see your beautiful teenage girl come forth at times, and I have great appreciation for her. And yeah, I really love hearing you say, Candace, that it's been therapeutic because when we grow up with complex PTSD and developmental trauma, we experience a lot of hard things in life and we feel so much judgment and condemnation. And honestly, we carry a lot of self loathing. And for you to be able to bring this particular period of life, which held so much pain for you for so long, for you to be able to bring this forward in a way that is from this place where you are healing and healed, but where you're kind of on the other side of the shame and the self-hatred aspects of it, and how you are seeing and holding these stories has just been transformed for you.
It truly is. That's just what it is. It's transforming. And I'm so thankful for the journey. Man, it was so hard. There were just moments that in my healing process and working one on one or in a group, I mean, you witnessed this. When she would come forth, sometimes I would put my hands over my face, just a lot of shame there. And then it just began, the clearer the story became and the love that was coming after me. I mean, just really took off her cloak of shame. My journey for me has been truly about healing and humility because so in my anger and in my parts, there's those protective parts, there wasn't anything humble about them, right? They were
Mhm.
very wounded and they were showing up pretty aggressive. I think the humility piece is that, yeah, I get to grieve and mourn and feel angry about why I felt like I needed so much numbing and coping. And I get to take ownership of the ways that eventually became problematic in my relationships.
I think one of the themes that comes out a lot in the memoir is the theme of loneliness and the depth of loneliness that you experienced. And then, as you're saying here, like the strategies that you developed to try to escape feeling that deep degree of loneliness.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That was the littlest girl, the exile. Like she had all kinds of things that happened to her, but the profound sense of feeling alone and then physically being left alone and the level of fear my body, her body, our body held, it just makes so much sense that I didn't ever want to be alone. Thank you for pointing it out. Yeah, that theme I know will be relatable for almost everyone who was not seen in their childhood.
What is your hope for the reader? If you could magically make it happen, that every person that reads your book will go away with this particular thing or these particular things, what would some of your desires be for takeaways for your readers?
I have a few things that I can say. I think number one, I haven't thought about these in an order, but this does feel like the most important thing is that, wow, this just kind of makes me feel emotional. I just hope every person, every woman, even if it's a teenage girl, young woman, older woman, if they've turned against themselves, they condemn themselves, their self-judgment or self-loathing. My hope and my prayer is that that can begin to be seen and held, and those feelings can lessen and be healed. Like I pray that somebody would be curious, like, oh, can I love myself the way she began to see herself? Really, my story has so much to it. What I want to say is, if I can love myself, you can.
Yeah, you can love yourself too. Yes.
Yeah, just self love.
Yeah.
And then, so it's twofold, self love, and then which opens us up to be able to love others more deeply. But then that my memoir also has a message at the end of my pathway of healing. My hope for that was, if there's any reconciliation that can happen between a mother and an adult child, wow, that would be amazing.
I love the way that you wrote the book because the first part is stories and it's your story, your memoir. But as you go through, it's so you just capitalized on the moments to say a word or two, a sentence here and there about what was going on or what the meaning was or how you were learning. So it's like you were really in the story, but then you would kind of step a little outside of the story and give a little bit of narration, and then we'd be back in the story again. And then so you took us on this ride where you were the main character. It was your life story, but then you kind of step aside and you come alongside of us as a teacher a little bit, and it's like you're pointing out these things that would cause me many times to be like, oh yeah, and then to see like how that came through in the story in a way that then just helped me be able to relate so much to my own life, even though my story is very, very different than yours. I just felt like that was so helpful. And I have so many people that I want to recommend your book to because I think it is, Candace, like it's an opportunity for others to read someone's very real, very honest, very vulnerable life story in a way that offers so much care to the reader and so much help for us as the reader to say, wow, I get that. Okay, now I can understand, because there are so many things that are difficult to learn in abstract form, but you give us the story and then you give us the teaching, and it just makes it easy for the reader to grasp what you're offering here. But really beautifully written.
Thank you. That feels nice to hear because I think I tend to find it easier to teach, but yet I too notice that when I put everything together with my story, so I actually want to say I had a teaching part. There
Mm.
was something about if I can teach it, it's actually going to go into my next memoir of my 20s to 30s, my prove it part.
Yeah.
And, and so but what I found with this, it didn't feel like that to me. It actually felt very tender and very humbling that I would be able to direct somebody.
Well, and yes, that comes through so beautifully. I mean, so tenderly written. And as you mentioned just a little bit, part two of the book then is really where you are speaking more to parents, where maybe they have experienced some rupture in their relationships with their adult children. And wow, I mean, the content that you offer there is just, I mean, it's gold. It's really so rich and tender and powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, I will tell you, I felt like on that part it felt a little harder for me
Yeah.
because I'm holding myself, I'm holding these children, I'm holding these parents, and I love them all.
Yeah.
And yet I know that to have true repair and healing, we have to go to the hard places.
So, just a couple of questions about the writing process. As you worked on this project and brought your stories to the page, what was the most, or one of the most rewarding aspects of doing this creative work?
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm reading a book by Anne Lamott right now, Bird by Bird, about the writing process, which has been so nice to be reading during this time because I can identify with that. I hope people will be helped with this, but I really just enjoyed writing it. Do you remember a while back? You actually the last time you interviewed me, I had gotten asked to speak,
Yep.
and when I was done, I told you I don't care if I ever do that again. Here's what I want to say: I cannot wait to start writing my next memoir,
Yeah.
my next decade. I do have a joy, like I'm tapping back into a real joy of writing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad, because this is a gift to the world. One last question, and that would be, how has writing your memoir impacted your life? And I know there are many ways, but what's one way or a few things that come to your mind about how your own life has been impacted by doing?
There are people who are reading my memoir right now before we do the final, and I'm getting feedback. And I am just, I think I read it over and over again, just in awe of the kindness because there's vulnerability here putting these stories out there. And it's kind of like almost wanting to put something up to shield, oh, this could be bad. And so I think it's impacted me right currently in a way like I can breathe. Like, okay, I have a few people who are saying, Candace, this is okay. You can do this. We've got your back. We see that there's purpose in this. And I don't know if that answers your question, but just
Mhm.
that's what came up for me. Just the little bit of feedback I've gotten has helped me to breathe and like I'm on the right path here.
And I think just to have the validation of you're bringing such big, vulnerable places of your story, of your life, and offering it to the public. It is a scary place to be. And yet your story is all about how you have tended so well to this part of you who has needed so much good care. And that as you have offered and found that care from others too, as you have found that care and offered that care, healing has come and is coming. And we never say we're there, but we know we've overcome a lot of things. But yeah, it's just so apparent that this part that has been such a key player in your life is entering her glory in just some radiant ways. And it's beautiful.
Well, so we talk about unburdening. This part has been burdened my whole life. And I can go years and years of managing that part, but this part she has come up when she feels she needs to come up, right?
Yeah.
And now that she is seen and that burden has lifted off of her of what she carried, I'm still kind of excited about what she's gonna lead me to in such goodness, right? And such, like, it's not just about me. It's like that deep desire I have for you and I both have shared to see people heal.
Yeah. I have said many times that I believe we were all created to be courageous, free, and fully alive. And I see this in you, Kandace, like you are becoming more courageous, more free, more fully alive. And in part, as this particular part is finding such beautiful freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree.
Really good to be with you and to talk with you about this. And I know that we will be talking more in the future about your writing and this process of bringing this book to life and to light. But thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I'm super excited for our readers to get their hands, our listeners who've been listening to us for over 100 podcasts, now can get their hands on your memoir that will help them really see who you are in much deeper ways and see more of your process that you're walking and experiencing on this healing.
I wonder, Cher, someday if I'm going to be interviewing you about a book you write.
Well, I will tell you, your writing journey is very inspiring, and I have a few things that are churning on the back burner, but where that will go, I don't know, but we shall see.
Okay, I can't wait. Thank you, Cher. Love you, friend.
I love you too.
Thank you for listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud. Make sure to check out the show notes for links to suggested resources and social media. Like, subscribe, and follow to keep up with our weekly content. And if you don't mind, take a moment to rate and review us. Your feedback is extremely valuable and contributes to the success of this podcast. One last thing. If you have found this podcast helpful in any way, or if you have questions on how to take the next steps on your healing journey, please reach out to us via email at KandaceSher@gmail.com. That's KandaceSher@gmail.com. Our sound engineer is Jeremiah Jones of Auditory LLC. We welcome you to join us for more conversations soon. Take care.